Welcome back, everyone. Today we're taking a deep dive into something a little different. We're going to be looking at a conversation between two English language learners.
Sounds intriguing.
It is. It's really fascinating how these everyday conversations can reveal so much about, like, lifestyle choices and different cultural perspectives on food.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
So while they're focused on practicing English, they touch upon some really interesting things about, healthy habits and well-being.
Oh, I'm curious to hear more.
Yeah. So, for example, one of the speakers, we'll call him Sweaty, talks about his commitment to a healthier lifestyle. Daily walks, experimenting with new recipes, a structured morning routine. Like, he's really taking charge of his well-being.
It sounds like it. I mean, that's quite the regimen.
Right. And he actually mentions feeling so much more energized since implementing these changes.
That's great. What I find really interesting is his emphasis on drinking warm water first thing in the morning.
Yes. He actually highlights that it might improve blood circulation. Warm water can help dilate blood vessels, which could potentially lead to better brain function, maybe even reduce stress.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. That's just a simple habit could have like ripple effect on so many things.
Right. It's a great reminder that sometimes the most effective solutions are often the simplest.
I totally agree.
Now, the conversation also takes an interesting turn towards American breakfast habits.
Ooh, okay. Tell me more.
So apparently, weekday breakfasts in America tend to be pretty quick and light. A bowl of cereal, some eggs, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But then come the weekend, it seems like breakfast transforms into this like elaborate affair.
Oh, wow. So it's almost like a different meal altogether.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And the contrast is really striking. It makes you wonder about the cultural factors that kind of shape these habits, right?
Yeah, for sure. I found it really amusing when they discussed how Americans like prefer their eggs. It seems like there's this whole world of possibilities within that one simple dish.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And of course, no conversation about food would be complete without mentioning pizza.
Pizza.
Right.
Yeah.
They even got into the age-old debate about pineapple as a topping. One of the speakers admitted to loving Hawaiian pizza.
It's a classic debate for sure, and it really highlights how something as universally loved as pizza can still spark some pretty passionate opinions.
I know. I know. And it's a reminder that even in our food choices, individual preferences and cultural backgrounds, they all play a significant role.
Absolutely.
They also touch upon some common snacking habits,
Mm.
like the irresistible allure of popcorn during a movie marathon.
Oh yeah, totally.
And one speaker mentions consciously cutting back on spicy food because of concerns about its effect on digestion.
That's interesting. It points to like a growing awareness of how our food choices directly affect our gut health, which is really, really fascinating. I mean, we're starting to understand just how interconnected our digestive system is to our overall well-being.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And speaking of exploring different culinary experiences, they also talked about venturing out to try new cuisines. One speaker shares his recent experience at a Korean restaurant, while the other admits to sticking with old favorites like fish and chips.
Ooh, fish and chips, classic.
I know, right? I love that anecdote about the speaker who is on this quest to try fish and chips from all over the world.
That's amazing.
It's a real testament to the idea that even within familiar dishes, there's always room for exploration and discovering new variations.
Yeah, like appreciating both the comfort of the familiar and the excitement of the unknown.
Finding that balance. And that sense of balance seems to be a recurring theme in their conversation. They also talk about the role of family, shaping food habits, cooking traditions. One speaker shared a really heartwarming story about his mother. She always cooked homemade meals, even though she worked full-time.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, and it really resonated with me because it just speaks to the love and dedication that goes into, preparing meals for your loved ones, even amidst, busy schedules. It's not just about the food itself, but the care and connection that it represents.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the speaker also mentioned that his father would often cook when his mother was busy too, which, kind of showcases a really supportive family dynamic where cooking wasn't just one person's responsibility.
I love that. It's a beautiful picture of a family united by food. Everyone pitches in.
Yeah. But then the conversation kind of shifts to a more serious topic, processed foods.
Oh, okay.
And they dive into what defines a processed food.
Hmm.
Basically, something that's been altered from its natural state, often loaded with sugar, salt, unhealthy fats, artificial additives, fast food, packaged snacks, sugary drinks.
It's everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
And they even acknowledge the struggle of resisting these processed foods, even when we know they're not good for us.
It's true.
Let's be honest, who doesn't love a slice of pizza every now and then?
Oh, absolutely.
But they emphasize the importance of moderation and how home-cooked meals, even though they require more effort, really are a much healthier alternative.
Yeah, definitely. And finding like quick and easy recipes that can rival takeout. That's key.
It's about making informed choices,
Yeah.
and finding that sweet spot between enjoying those occasional indulgences, but also prioritizing our long-term health.
Totally. I agree.
Now, they also challenged a common misconception that exercise is the only way to lose weight. And they shared this really compelling story about someone who lost a significant amount of weight simply by focusing on eating at the right times.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, it's a great example of how small changes in our eating habits can actually have a huge impact. It highlights the power of mindful eating and, paying attention to our body's natural cues.
Hmm.
It's not always about crazy diets or intense workouts. Sometimes, even just subtle shifts in our approach can lead to really, really significant results.
Yeah, that makes sense. Small changes can add up over time.
Exactly. And it's not just about weight loss. They touched on this idea that sometimes we get so caught up in how we look externally that we forget about our internal health.
Yeah, that's a good point. We often prioritize outward appearance over inner well-being.
Right. And, it's about finding that balance, taking care of ourselves from the inside out. And speaking of balance, they brought up this fascinating point about sleep. The idea that every cell in our body actually has its own sleep-wake cycle.
Wow, I've never thought about it like that before. That's pretty mind-blowing.
It is. And it really highlights just how crucial sleep is for our overall well-being. During sleep, our bodies release growth hormone and melatonin, which are essential for cell regeneration and repair.
So it's like hitting the reset button for our entire system.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And yet so many of us sacrifice sleep for work, social media, you're just staying up late watching TV.
Yeah, it's true. We live in a society that's constantly on the go. It's hard to prioritize sleep sometimes.
It is. But we need to remember that chronic sleep deprivation, it can have serious consequences for our health.
Right? It impacts everything. Our mood, our energy, even our ability to focus.
So it's like we're slowly chipping away at our health without even realizing it.
Exactly. And what's even scarier is that the effects often sneak up on us so gradually that we don't even realize what's causing them. We might feel tired or irritable and just blame it on stress or a busy schedule instead of realizing it's actually lack of sleep.
It's a good reminder that we need to be more mindful of our sleep habits and actually make an effort to get at least 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep each night. Speaking of mindfulness, remember how we were talking about processed foods earlier? Well, they go on to highlight some pretty compelling research about the health risks that can come with eating too many of them.
Oh, wow. Okay, this is getting serious. What kind of research?
So they mentioned a 5-year study that followed over 100,000 participants, and the results were a bit concerning. They found that for every 10% increase in ultra-processed food intake, there was a 12% higher risk of developing colorectal cancer.
That's a pretty significant correlation. That's definitely something to think about.
It is. And it's not just cancer. They talk about how excessive sugar, sodium, and unhealthy fats, which are often found in large amounts in processed foods, can contribute to a bunch of other health problems like obesity, heart disease, high blood pressure, and type 2 diabetes.
It's like a chain reaction. You start with one unhealthy choice and it leads to a whole cascade of negative consequences.
Exactly. And beyond just the basic ingredients, they also talk about how common it is to find artificial additives in processed foods. Things that are added to enhance the flavor or make it look more appealing, or even just to extend the shelf life.
It makes you realize there's a lot more lurking in those packaged foods than we might think.
Right.
It's like a hidden world of ingredients.
Yeah, and it's a call to be more aware consumers, to really pay attention to food labels and know what we're putting into our bodies.
Absolutely. Knowledge is power when it comes to making healthier choices.
Yeah.
It's really important to be informed about what's in our food.
It is. But the good news is they don't just dwell on the negatives. They also offer some practical advice for how to make healthier choices.
Oh, good. What kind of advice do they give?
Well, they really stress the importance of cooking at home more often.
Makes sense. Home-cooked meals are almost always going to be healthier than takeout or processed foods.
Right. And while that might seem daunting for some people, they actually encourage listeners to look for quick and easy recipes, like stuff that can rival the convenience of takeout, but be so much better for you.
It's about changing our mindset. Instead of seeing cooking as a chore, view it as an act of self-care.
Yeah. taking the time to nourish ourselves.
Exactly.
And they also highlight how even small changes can make a big difference. Remember that story we talked about earlier? The person who lost weight just by changing when they ate?
Oh, yeah, yeah. That was a great example.
It's a powerful reminder that we don't need to completely overhaul our lives to see results. Sometimes the smallest, most consistent changes can have a really big impact.
I like that. It's encouraging to think that we don't have to do everything perfectly all at once. Small steps can lead to big changes.
Definitely. It's about taking a more gentle approach to our health, focusing on progress, not perfection.
Absolutely.
And they emphasize that it doesn't have to be about deprivation or feeling restricted. It's not about cutting out all the foods you enjoy, but finding a balance that works for you.
Finding that sweet spot where healthy habits become a part of your lifestyle, not something you dread or feel guilty about.
Exactly. And that's what's so inspiring about this conversation. They're not preaching from some high horse. They're just sharing their own experiences and insights in a really relatable way.
It makes the information much more accessible, less intimidating.
For sure. It's like we're eavesdropping on a conversation between friends who are on their own journeys to better health.
And that journey is just as important as the destination, right?
Totally. Speaking of journeys, they touched on something that really resonated with me. It's about not letting fear or this idea that we have to be perfect hold us back from even trying.
Oh, yeah. It's so easy to fall into the trap of all or nothing thinking. Like,
Yeah.
if we can't do everything perfectly, then why even bother at all?
Right. We set these really high standards for ourselves and then feel discouraged when we don't meet them, which just makes us less likely to even try.
Exactly. But they encourage us to think differently, to embrace progress over perfection.
Yeah. Taking small steps, celebrating those wins, and recognizing that even setbacks are opportunities to learn and grow.
It's all part of the journey. It's about focusing on the process rather than obsessing over the end result.
It's a much more sustainable and compassionate way to approach self-improvement.
I agree. It takes the pressure off and allows us to enjoy the process more.
Exactly.
It really does. It kind of takes the pressure off, allows us to be more gentle with ourselves.
Yep.
Now, before we wrap up our deep dive into this conversation, I want to go back to something they talked about earlier that I thought was really touching. It was that story about the speaker's mother who always made home-cooked meals, even though she worked full-time.
Oh, yeah. That was such a sweet story. It really showed how food can be a powerful way to show love and care for your family.
It's not just about giving them something to eat. It's about creating a sense of tradition and togetherness. Those family meals, they're a time to connect, share stories, and strengthen those family bonds.
Yeah, absolutely. And it wasn't just the mom's job either, right? The speaker mentioned his dad would also cook when he needed to. It was a real team effort.
I love that. It shows that cooking doesn't have to be a chore. It can be something you do together, a way for everyone in the family to contribute and feel good about the meals they're sharing.
Yeah, it challenges those traditional ideas about who
Yeah.
does the cooking
Yeah.
and makes it more of a shared experience.
Exactly.
And, beyond just the family dynamic, they also talked about exploring new foods and revisiting old favorites.
Yes. I was so inspired when the speaker talked about trying Korean food for the first time. It's so important to be open to new flavors and experiences, to step outside our comfort zones.
It's about embracing all the amazing variety that the world of food has to offer.
Exactly.
And it's not just about trying new things. They also talk about how much they enjoy those classic dishes, the ones that have a special meaning to them.
Yeah, I loved the story about the speaker trying fish and chips all over the world. Even within a familiar dish, there are always new things to discover, new twists and variations.
It's about finding that balance between trying new things and enjoying the comfort of what you know and love.
It's about recognizing that our relationship with food is always changing. Our tastes change, what we want changes, and there's always something new to learn and experience.
As we come to the end of this deep dive, I think the biggest takeaway is that our relationship with food is really personal, and it has so many different aspects to it. It's shaped by our families, our cultures, our personal tastes, even things like learning a new language.
Absolutely. But in the end, it's about finding what works for you, approaching food with a sense of balance, mindfulness, and enjoyment. It's about feeding our bodies, but also enjoying the pleasure and connection that food can bring.
I think that's a great way to put it. So to all our listeners out there, we encourage you to keep exploring the world of food. Be curious, try new things, and revisit those old favorites that you love.
And remember, inspiration can come from anywhere. Sometimes it's those everyday conversations that can offer the most profound insights.
Great point. Thanks for joining us on this unexpected deep dive. Until next time,